Tighten Up, the podcast, is brought to you by Hyperice, the leading provider of innovative technology for recovery, mobility, and improved performance. They help the Titans. They can help you too. Learn more online at hyperice.com.
This is Ryan Kalambay. Let's tighten up.
Detroit, it's time to tighten up. Welcome to Tighten Up, the podcast, presented by The Shield NIL. Brought to you by Hyperice and Last Shot Energy. A state of the Titans, the latest in Detroit Mercy athletics, and a chance to hear from Titans all over the world. Here's your host, Dan Hasty.
Tighten Up, the podcast, is back for another edition, and we can't thank you enough. We've had so many cool opportunities over the course of the last couple of weeks to get to know these Titans players, but, you know, whether it be learning about these families or learning about the different connections, whether it be to the city of Detroit or to the Detroit Mercy Titans themselves, there are few connections in terms of family that are as unique as the one we get to talk about today. We also get a chance to celebrate one of the newest Horizon League Freshmen of the Week. Ryan Kalambay is with us. Ryan, good to see you, my man.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for having me.
And congratulations on Freshman of the Week. And joining us in addition to Ryan Kalambay is Ryan's brother, Dylan Kalambay. I wish I could call you Dylon Kalambay because you'd be one of the 5 greatest rappers of all time. That's a Chappelle Show reference. But Dylan Kalambay joins us now. Dylan, thank you very much for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about getting Horizon League Freshman of the Week and what that meant and how you found out, Ryan.
So we actually had just finished practice. I think it was the day after the Oakland game. And one of my coaches comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, congratulations on winning Freshman Player of the Week." And I was like, there's no way, right? And he shows me the graph. And at that point, I was kind of just like shocked because no one had told me nothing about it happening. Not saying that like I didn't believe that I could have got it, but like, you know, when you win something like that, you're kind of just in shock. So then I went ahead and told my family, you know, my brothers, my parents, and they were they were very excited for me, you know, everything that was going on at the time. And it was honestly just a blessing.
Dylan, what did it mean to you to hear that?
It was great news, honestly. Like, obviously, everyone at home is rooting for him. And so finding out that he was able to win Horizon Rookie of the Week was it was such a good step in the positive direction. Like, I'm so happy for him and I'm just excited to see him continue to keep playing well.
Ryan, I want to hear your story. Dylan, I want to hear your story too, because you guys both have very interesting and unique stories of your basketball career. And the reason I wanted to have both of you on is because in some way, I feel like the two of you are sort of playing a career through Ryan. So, I mean, this is why I feel like you guys are bonded in such a unique and special way. So, Ryan, if you can, tell us the story of how you ended up at Detroit Mercy.
So the year before my last year in high school, I ended up tearing my labrum, and it was very tough for me, obviously, because that was supposed to be my last year of AAU. I was going to do well. I was supposed to play with Canada Elite in the UAA circuit. Obviously, all that went away. So I kind of just had to, you know, put my head down and work, do my rehab and get ready for the next season. And going into that season, you know, it was obviously a goal of mine to try to get a scholarship. And unfortunately, it didn't come through. And at that point, I thought it would be over. I thought I was looking at other schools, you know, D2s, D3s, NAIAs, anything else, JUCOs maybe. But one of my high school coach at the time, Coach Steve, he actually put me on the EYBL circuit. He gave me a chance to play there. You know, I was also very skeptical about that too. I was debating back and forth with my parents if I should even do it because like we were kind of like just losing hope at that time. It was kind of just like, you know, maybe you should just get ready to have what you have dealt in front of you. But I kind of just bet on myself, put my head down, and went out there. And I was fortunate enough to be seen by Coach Monty and Coach Peck. So that's how I ended up here.
It's so funny how you used some of the buzzwords that we've heard about some of the other Detroit Mercy players and some of the freshmen. I feel like we just talked to Nate Johnson about betting on himself and having to roll the dice a little bit, and, having that situation where you don't have those offers coming in for one reason or another towards the end of your college, or rather in this case, your high school opportunities. I mean, how nervous were you getting towards the end of the high school line? And then what happened when Monty came around the corner?
Yeah. So when that summer came around, I wasn't so more nervous. I was kind of just like, how would I say, like, discouraged, kind of. Obviously, you still have a chance at like other different types of levels, that the D2s and all that stuff. But it's always been a goal of mine to play Division I. So that's kind of where my head was at. And when my coach had told me that, Coach Monty he said he wanted to come and watch a few games, I kind of just let it. I didn't really look into it too much because I've heard that before. So, but they actually showed up and they spoke to me before the game. They spoke to me after. So I kind of got a little bit of that hope back. And when they finally said they would love to have me at their school, it was obviously like one of the greatest moments of my life. So, yeah.
Ryan averaged a double-double over the course of 2 games against Oakland and Cleveland State. Not easy teams to average a double-double against. You mentioned tearing your labrum and feeling like, all those opportunities went away. And Dylan, I know that you can relate to feeling like something went away and opportunities falling away that you feel that maybe you should have or could have had. Now, I want to be careful in talking about this story because, I feel for you so much, but I know this is going to open so many doors for you if it hasn't already. So if you can, enlighten people as to your story the way you tell it.
Yeah. In high school, I was one of the best recruits of my age group in Canada. I had just played with the national team in the FIBA Under-16 Americas. And then after that, I was going into my first year of playing at a prep program in Niagara Falls in Ontario. And so I was excited. I was ready to go. Things had just been looking up. Like, it was just a great year. And unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse when I started to feel sick in and around the fall of that same year of 2019. I started to feel a cough, and then that cough turned into shortness of breath, and then the shortness of breath turned into me not even being able to play more than a minute on the court. And so that's when we knew something was wrong. And so I went to the school nurse. They were taking my vitals, and they had noticed that my resting heart rate was around 200 beats per minute. And so they rushed me to the hospital. They ran some tests that were non-conclusive, and then they sent me to one of the bigger hospitals in downtown Toronto. And that's when they had told me that I had an enlarged heart and a condition called the dilated cardiomyopathy, and that I would need a possible surgery in order to fix that.
So what happens then? Did you actually have to have the surgery?
Yeah, so I eventually had a LVAD put in, which goes into the left ventricle of the heart, and it essentially helps pump the blood for you so that the heart can relax. And that was kind of just supposed to be a temporary fix in order to see if my heart would heal. And then eventually they found that my heart wasn't going to heal. And so I had the difficult conversation with my parents, my siblings, obviously Ryan. And we eventually decided that I wanted to enlist for a heart transplant. And so after being on the transplant list for around 5 months, I eventually got my heart transplant. The next year, in less than a year, actually, I was back on the court in about 9 months. I was able to play out my senior year, and now I'm playing at university ball in Canada. So it's been a wild ride, but it's definitely been something that I've had to work so hard to be able to come back and play basketball. But it's it's been something that I can say it was a great journey.
Tell me about how you're playing now. I mean, to have it all taken away from you, and do you feel like you're getting it back now?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think with every day it gets easier and easier. I feel like being on the sideline for quite some time too helped me see the game a little bit differently, and so now I'm able to do things that I wasn't necessarily able to do before. I think that I'm able to grab rebounds a little bit better because I was able to see how so many shots bounce off of the rim based on like how certain teammates shoot it. And so I think it's helped me expand my horizons, and it's also helped me be a better player as well.
How's your season going?
We're doing pretty well. We're ranked, I want to say, 4th in the country right now. We're currently 13-3, so we're doing pretty well. We're hopefully looking to win a conference title, and then hopefully that'll bring us to a national title. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes.
It's just wild. So now, how much older are you than your teammates? Obviously, you had a little bit of time between the end of your high school and the start of your college career.
It's actually a little bit interesting because I'd say right about now I'm kind of middle of the pack just because there were so many guys that had the COVID year, and the eligibility rules in Canada are a little bit different where you get 5 years of eligibility rather than the 4. And so I'm still not that much older than my peers, but I think in the next 2 years, I'm probably going to end up being the old head, and dudes are going to start calling me Unc. So it'll be interesting to see that transition.
Like a heart issue, and then Ryan, a labrum issue. Ryan, it puts a lot of things in perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say so. Even my sister, she had torn her ACL right before her senior season. So we all had some sort of, some are far worse than the other, but we all had some sort of like setback to overcome. And I think we did a pretty good job at doing so.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, all of this, I mean, the journey in and of itself is fighting through adversity, and you're going to get that in one way or another. It doesn't matter if it's personal or from a team perspective. I mean, it's going to happen no matter how it comes across, but you guys are finding your way through it. And honestly, I would imagine for both of you guys, and Dylan, I would imagine it's got to feel that much sweeter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so sweet to be able to get back on the court. Like, there's been so many different setbacks, from just the whole transplant in and of itself to having to get back and having a small bout of rejection even a year after. Like, it's been a long journey, but every step of the way has been worth it because it means it's that much more refreshing and I can enjoy it that much more.
And Ryan, now that you're here with Detroit, what have you come to enjoy the most since you've been here?
Are you talking about like just city-wise or just like basketball? Like,
ooh, that's a good question, because Detroit, that's not a bad place at all. Let's start there. I mean, have you got a lot of time to get down to Detroit yet?
I've only been downtown like a handful of times, but we've been to a few spots. I think that first week we went to this new spot called Fixins. I can't remember the name of the NBA player, but there's some type of NBA player that's the owner of the spot, and it's actually a pretty good spot. We all enjoyed that spot. Another spot that we don't have in Canada is, I think it's called.
Kevin Johnson owns Fixins.
Yes, Kevin Johnson. Yeah. Another spot was the Peach. What is it? Peach Cobbler Factory. Is that what it's called?
Oh, the Peach Cobbler Factory.
There's something like that.
Yes, it is the Peach Cobbler Factory.
Yeah, Detroit. Yeah, that spot. That's amazing. There's a lot of other spots that I've been to that weren't necessarily in Detroit. I think it was Dearborn, Rochester Hills, like things in that area. A lot of different spots that we just didn't have up there. That there's some great food. Other than food, I haven't really experienced much yet. Hopefully, like in the summer when we're off and we have more time to just relax, hopefully I'll get to visit more of the city. But for now, it's pretty good here.
Okay, that was too fun. I couldn't resist. All right, but now take me into the basketball side of it and the team side of it. What have you enjoyed most since you've gotten there?
So I had missed the summer session, so I was kind of nervous coming in because there's a bunch of group of guys that had already had time meshing together, and I didn't really know if I was gonna just fit in with the guys and all that stuff. But all these people here just really encourage me to just do what I have to do, and they help me just be great and continue to keep working. And even they're very inviting, very helpful with things that I didn't know that I needed help with. So the coaches, the staff, you all want to say what's up to you, just conversate with you. And everyone has their bad days, but they're pretty good people.
Ryan, what are the big differences between hoops in Canada and hoops in the US?
I'd say the biggest thing is physicality. It took me a while to get used to the physicality here, and obviously I have to give credit to Sam, our weight trainer, for that. He's helped me, put a few pounds of muscle on, just get stronger, learn how to fight. Part of it isn't even in strength. It's certain things like just getting low that Monty and all the other coaches just drill into me. So the physical part, it took me a while, but I think I'm starting to understand it now. And I would honestly say that's the biggest part, really. Other than that, there's not much of a difference.
Dylan, did I read that you're a kinesiology major?
Yeah, I was in kinesiology, but I ended up switching my degree into media and communications, actually.
Is that right? What do you want to do with that?
I kind of want to go into sports broadcasting, so something a little bit similar to what you're doing here, but
interesting. All right. Well, let me try and talk you out of it. No, tell me, what do you want to do?
I'm not entirely sure yet. If I'm being completely honest, I think the whole just being on camera thing has just always excited me. I've done quite a bit of interviews now just because of my story, and so I think just the art of being able to story tell and share other people's stories and sharing my gifts with the world as well as others is something that I want to continue to pursue and hopefully be one of the greats.
Oof. Well, don't tease me because you do this a little bit more often and we can have you on as a co-host for this thing. All right. So now that is something that speaks near and dear to me. I can confidently tell you that I have zero background in cybersecurity. And that is where Ryan seemingly has a little bit more of a background. Now, before I make any assumptions, Ryan, are you still a cybersecurity major?
Yes, I am.
Okay. How in the world did that happen?
Well, I was originally looking to do engineering, but I kind of realized that with all the time that we spend in the gym, all that stuff, all the time away from school, and being an engineer would just be too much for me. And especially it's an extra amount of credits that you would need per semester. And my coaches they just were letting me know. And I kind of realized I wouldn't have time for that. And I really didn't mind cybersecurity. I like using computers and stuff. I'm a big fan of computer science. So that was the next best thing for me. So that's what I decided to do.
So now that you've gotten yourselves into the season, you're finally kind of getting used to it. I'm curious for both of you because now that you're playing, and Ryan, you've had a few more games under your belt, but Dylan, I can ask you this too. We'll start with you, Ryan. One of the hard things to do in this game is to convince yourself that you belong, is to convince yourself that you can play at the level you're at. Has there been a moment for you? I love asking this question to all you guys, but what moment was there that you said, okay, I can play here?
It hasn't really been a specific moment. I think I just started understanding it more and more. I'm sure with all the injuries and all the other problems going on, Coach Monty has been he's been stressing us next man up, next man up. He doesn't care who we have. We're ready to go with whoever. So he kind of they've kind of just been drilling that into me. And I kind of just, at one point I started realizing it really is hey, if this guy's not ready, I can go and just do what he has to do. And you kind of just have to really just think that you can do it until you actually can do it. And I think that's what I ended up doing.
And to that end, you never want to be in a situation as a team where you're down a guy or you're down 2 or 3 or 4 players. But to get that opportunity, I mean, there's also something to be said for making the most of it. So props to you for being able to take advantage of it. Dylan, what about you? Because I know it was back in November where you got a chance to take the floor for the first time. And I'm sure that was a night where you probably had a million different emotions flowing through your mind. So, I mean, I just have to imagine that was probably just as much of a victory as anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in that moment, it was kind of just being able to get back out on the court, especially after so long. That in and of itself was a blessing. Like, I was just grateful to be out there. But I think going back out there and being able to have the game that I had, while I didn't really score that much, I was still able to impact the game differently. Like, I had 2 blocks, I had 7 rebounds. And so just looking at those stats made me realize that I can still go and I'm still ready to play. Like, I can still contribute and I can still help a winning team. So it was just truly a blessing, and I couldn't ask for any better feeling.
So, Dylan, you'll have to forgive me because I just don't know a whole lot about the plights of your situation and getting a heart transplant. So I'm just going to ask this. When it comes to getting a heart transplant, I mean, like, I think about when a player tears an ACL or pops an Achilles and they're trying to rehab it, and everything comes down to when they get close to getting back out there, they're trying to get confident that muscle or those ligaments are going to do what they're supposed to do. Like, they're going to respond the way they're going to respond. They're going to act the way they're supposed to act. But when it's your heart, I mean, especially after a transplant, I mean, what have you been told that has given you confidence about your heart that has enabled you to get back and resume your career?
I think it's just been a multitude of things. It started with the transplant team here in Calgary. They've just been very understanding of the whole situation, and they've been kind of telling me what I can do and what I can't do at certain stages. And they've been really encouraging of do as much as activity as you possibly can. And so with that being said, our trainers at the school, our team doctors, they're all extremely hands-on, and they've all been finding ways to support me. Our team actually did a few CPR, like we did CPR training in order for them to be able to help me if things do go wrong. And so knowing that I have all that support and all these people behind me, especially my parents back home, so like cheering me on, it's just been it's been enough to where I know that I can, if they can believe in me, then I can believe in them that believe in me. And so it just gives me the strength to be able to play, and it helps me trust in myself that I can belong and I can go out there and bang with the guys.
I'm sure you're extremely well read on the subject. I'm sure you know all the historical precedents. So are you confident? I mean, are you at that place now where when you're out there playing, you're not thinking about it anymore?
Yeah, I think now I'm at that point where obviously there's times where it's like you'll feel tired and it's like, damn, like I wish I could go longer. But it's also just when I'm not in those moments, I truly don't even find myself thinking about it. I'm just thinking about, oh, what's the next play that I can make? How can I help my team win and things of that nature. So.
Tighten Up is brought to you by Last Shot Premium Hydration, the official hydration drink of Tighten Up, the podcast. Their revolutionary formula is jam-packed with vitamin B12 and 0 grams of sugar. It helps the Titans hydrate, replenish, and recover. Try it at Callahan Hall during a Titans game or learn more at lastshotofficial.com. Now, when it comes to you guys being able to watch the other person play, how often are you guys able to do that? Ryan, how much are you able to watch Dylan?
I try to do it whenever I can. You know, I have his account so I can watch his games. I try to tune in just to make sure just to see how his team's doing. But yeah, I always try to.
And Dylan?
I try to watch Ryan's games whenever I can. Obviously, the schedules do have some conflicts here and then. And obviously with classes and such, I can't always tune in. But when I can, I'll always make sure that I'm watching and I can give him some tips, even if he doesn't want to hear them all the time.
Ryan, what's your team's biggest win been this year?
Our biggest win was I would say our biggest win was versus. Sorry, I need some time to think. Actually, I think our biggest win would probably be our first Horizon League win versus Purdue for Wayne, because that one was obviously, I know you know the story last year. We were 1-30, I believe. So just going in there and getting a statement win as our first Horizon League game, I feel like it was big, because it kind of really, after that game, people started showing us a little bit more respect. More people started to show up. Media was there a lot more. So I think that game kind of put us on the map, and it was important to just go out there and show, like, we can really win some games now. So.
And what was cool about that game, and we kind of saw it with the Niagara game too, is that some of these wins, and actually just looking through them, is the wins that you guys have had, by and large, have been pretty close games. And when you guys get in these close games, you guys have been able to pull it out more often than not. So it's almost just like, well, don't let the Titans hang around, because if you do, then they might find a way to bite you for it. So, and I like to attribute that to toughness and wanting it more in those situations. I also think coaching has something to do with it. What has it been like with Monty this year?
He stressed to us that, like, even though, we might have had looked at ourselves like, we're just a bunch of freshmen, so we don't expect nothing big out of it. But he's made sure that was not the mentality going into the season. He's ready to compete with whoever he has. He's told us even if we had 5 people, he's still ready to go. He's not going to forfeit or nothing like that. So he's ready to go when it comes to close games. He's really, like, into it. You can see him on the sideline just jumping on the court sometimes, doing all that stuff. So he's into it as much as we are. And I'd also have to credit it to, like, our older guys, as in Lando, Ledge, E-Man, Mac. They have experience in closing out games, so they really help us to get over the finish line sometimes.
Those guys you mentioned, like Lando and E-Man, like Orlando Lovejoy and Emmanuel Quach, what makes those guys the leaders that they are?
Obviously they have the most experience, so leading a bunch of freshmen, 8 freshmen, they have to be vocal. They have to tell us, they have to let us know what's going on here. They are familiar with the consistency needed to throughout a long NCAA season. Sometimes you just might want to back down, just give up, just, like, relax. But, they're always on it to just keep going, keep pushing. So I think that they've been great vets in helping us understand what it's like to play at this level.
Dylan, do you think that they look at you as a leader on your team? I know that you haven't been playing a ton, at least to this point this year, but I would have to imagine, given your backstory, that a lot of guys look up to you.
Yeah, I think my teammates look up to me in more ways that are off the court than on. I think I try to pride myself in being one of, if not the hardest worker in the room. And so I try to lead by example in ways like that. Whereas, obviously, I'm going to be vocal on the court. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a vocal leader in the locker room, but I think that when I am on the court and I'm out there playing on the defensive end, the offensive end, wherever, I try to be as vocal as I can and help people get to the right spots whenever they're not in their places.
Ryan, what would you rather do? Throw down an alley-oop or block someone trying to throw down an alley-oop?
Definitely throw down the alley-oop.
And I know you're going to say that.
Yeah.
Monty loves teams that play defense, and I know that's kind of one of his signatures. He likes teams that rebound, but you mentioned it. You mentioned the big energy, the high energy, and especially when it's crunch time. I mean, you guys have been able to feed off of that and off of him in those big moments. I mean, how has he helped you guys, especially with so many freshmen this season?
Just him just always bringing that energy every day, just nonstop, relentless. He's on us in practice. He's on us in games. He's on us in warm-ups, shoot-arounds, everything we do. So bringing us that energy and us getting ourselves fired up helps us bring that defensive intensity into the game throughout the whole thing. And also the amount of repetitions of things that we do just in preparation for a game, it's kind of drilled into our heads to, just stay locked in, especially defensively. I think he puts more emphasis in defense, honestly. So just that alone just helps us stay locked in throughout the whole 40 minutes of the game.
So we talked about it. You averaged a double-double against two really talented teams, especially when you look at some of the guys on the front line that Oakland was putting up. I mean, Oakland's got some of the biggest dudes on the front line of any team in the Horizon League this year. And that was, you're probably your best game of the season. So what are you hoping to do? What are you hoping the rest of this season looks like for you and for this team?
I really just hope that, I can keep up great performances back to back, even though it's taxing, just stay locked in, just all that. And I hope that we can just start to, turn this around. We're going through a little rough streak right now, but hopefully we can get through this and just start turning up for when the right time is, being March Madness.
I want to ask you one other thing, and I'm going to jump over and I want to ask Dylan the same thing, but I did mean to ask you, Ryan, about some things that maybe you've had the chance to do around the Detroit community. So think about that here while I get over to your brother real quick, because I was noticing that you guys with the Dinos are 18-5 right now. You guys are killing it. And I mean, you guys are obviously having this outstanding season right now. So what are you guys hoping for the rest of the way?
We're just hoping to win a conference title, and with that, hopefully get to the national title. Obviously, it's not going to be easy because our conference is probably one of the stronger conferences this year, with 4 out of the top 10 teams being in our conference. And so just staying consistent, and hopefully we're able to just drive it home and finish it all off, because we have a lot of guys going into their last year, and hopefully we can end it off right for them.
I was thinking about this, and when I was younger, I used to hear ads on the radio talking about the student heart check program, because there was a famous player, a high school player, Wes Leonard, who was growing up in the local area. And Dylan, maybe you already know this story. I would imagine you probably have heard this name at some point along the way. And Ryan, probably you too, who had hit a game-winning shot and then suffered a heart attack after a high school basketball game. And they lost him. And so from that tragedy came something in Metro Detroit called the Student Heart Check Program. And people donate to that often. So high school athletes can get checked and they can find out kind of something very similar to, Dylan, what you found out, that you needed something that was essentially a preventative measure that could have very well saved your life. So I'm curious, Ryan, what kinds of things matter to you when it comes to a community level, a local level, the causes that matter to you? I imagine that this one's probably right there towards the top of the list.
Yeah, definitely. I think that community, just helping the community, just being there for communities is such a big thing. Just being there for the youth. I missed out on a lot of the events that they had during the summer. So I wasn't there. Hopefully next summer I get to experience some of those. One of the big things that we did have during the season, though, was we had this little clinic or like a sports workshop for a bunch of kids throughout the city, where they came in and they just got to experience a bunch of different sports for like 30 minutes at a time before they would rotate. I believe there was like soccer, basketball, track, And the best thing about it was that all the athletes were the ones actually running the show. So we got to, meet the children, help them out and just show them around, give them a fun time that they might not have the chance to experience. So I felt like that was a great experience for me.
And if you would like to put together a camp and you would like to use Detroit Mercy student athletes to help you run that camp, you can get information. You can go to theshieldnil.org. You can get people like Ryan to come out and help out at an event just like that. So again, can't thank you both enough for joining us. This has been so good and so enlightening. And I'm just so happy that both of you are playing basketball again. That's the coolest part of this whole thing, because it's such a great story of success to watch it all happen and to see both of you doing this. I mean, I'm sure there were times where we didn't know if both of you were going to have basketball careers, especially at the college level, for one reason or another. But here we are, and both Kalambays are playing, and your sister obviously playing too. So there's just so many things to celebrate for you guys and for your family. And the Horizon League Freshman of the Week. So it just continues to keep on piling up. Ryan, Dylan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Ryan and Dylan Kalambay here on this edition of the Tighten Up podcast. How cool was that? There is much more to come here later this week and into next week. There's so many different people that impact this program, whether they are playing for this program like Ryan, or if they are playing for this program in spirit like Dylan is. And even if he's playing for another school, we can claim him just as much as anyone that's floating around in the Detroit Mercy basketball world. Again, you can find more information at theshieldnil.org. You can also go and find us on Instagram at theshieldnil. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan Hasty. You can find me on X at that Dan Hasty. We'll be back with another episode very, very soon, and I will talk to you Titans of Industry next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Tighten Up, the podcast. Join our community at The Shield on theshieldnil.org and follow us on X and Instagram at theshieldnil.
If I can tell you one thing above all else as part of this show, it would be this. If you're unfamiliar, if you haven't done it before, join the community at The Shield Online. It's online at theshieldnil.org. That's theshieldnil.org.